Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today my video is going to be a plan with me video, so it's going to be a bit of a chatty video, so let me know if you prefer these videos instead. And I'm just going to jump right into it. So the first thing I have is my monthly view planner. It literally is just a monthly view and I'm going to be planning November. So here it is, and as you can see I've already put in that I'm going to be turning 25 in November. So it's going to be a special month for me and I'm super excited. And moving on, I also just have a random notebook that I kind of start off with, and then I have my iPad. So for some of you that have seen my ways to use your notebooks video, I try to do a lot of my rough notes in the iPad, but for me nothing really beats a good pen and paper. And then here I have my laptop, so I really like using the app Notion on my laptop to plan like my YouTube content and just to keep everything digital in one place. And then last but not least, I have my phone. And again, if you've seen my video on how to be more organized, you'll know that I have a shared notes page which I share with my husband, which has just a shopping list or things that we need to do around the house. It's going to be quite interactive, so I'd love for you to just grab a drink and gather all of your notebooks. So I like to make things look pretty and neat because then I'm more likely to look at it and actually follow that plan, rather than if something was messy and it looks scruffy on some scrap paper, I'm not really going to look at that and be inspired to do all of those things. But I also like to be efficient, so I don't spend too much time on making things look really amazing, which is why I don't have a bullet journal. I feel like I'm going to spend 3 or 4 hours on it every single day, making it look the way that I want to. So for now, this is what's working for me, and I think this is something that's always changing depending on what I'm doing with my life, what kind of work I have to do, what kind of projects I'm working on, and things like that. So like I said, on my laptop I have the app Notion, which I think is really amazing if you do a lot of work online. You can keep everything really organized and have folders and have notes within notes and things like that, which I really love. So something that you won't be able to see here that I do every single month is a deep clean, and I usually spend about a day or half a day just making sure that the cupboards are nice and in order, making sure there's no washing to do. We usually clean our mattresses as well because it's super dusty here. I also spend time just going through all of the skincare products and making sure I throw things out that I don't really use anymore, because I'm trying to minimize everything that I'm around. And I always say this, when your space is clear, your mind is clear, and you can focus on what you want so much better and set clear intentions for the next month. So I think that's a really important first step to do when it comes to planning your routine. Make sure your space is nice and clean so your mind can be clear and focused on what you want to achieve for the next month. So once my space is clean, I'll get started with my planning, and this usually takes me about half an hour to 40 minutes. And the first thing I'll do is actually just get my notebook and I will do a brain dump, and this means that I will write down every single thing on my mind that I want to achieve for the next month. While I'm doing this, I actually split the things up into 3 sections, which is work, personal and other. And the reason I do this because it just makes it so much clearer when I'm actually scheduling these things in and making sure I am completing everything that I want to complete. So a few examples of some things that I have to do in terms of my personal list is I really want to start to get back into yoga, and if you followed me for a while you know that I do love doing yoga and I do think it's really important. I do yoga nearly every day, but that's only about 5 or 10 minutes, whereas I really want to extend my practice and just spend a lot longer doing it. So that's one of the things. Another thing is a hair care routine, and I want to kind of learn the cycles of my hair and just educate myself in terms of ingredients for my hair. So that's on my personal list. And as for my work list, there's lots of things that I would have to arrange with the kids that I'm working with and the parents and meetings and things like that. And in terms of YouTube, it's all of my content is actually already planned for November, so I'm on track with that, and it's just about finding some more resources and creating resources for those videos as well. So now that I have my rough list done, I'll take my monthly planner and I'll kind of just start to put a few of the videos that I'm going to be making and anyone that we're going to be meeting into my planner. And then I'll go back to that later if I feel like anything needs to be added. Moving on, I'll just go onto my iPad, and this is where I usually take notes in terms of reflection of the previous week. And if you didn't know this, I use my self-care planner to do this, which is like that. I don't know if you can see it. So with this planner, there's a lot of reflection with self-care, and then I'll fill that in and just take a moment to see how I've prioritized myself this week and work on that. So now it's time for some reflection and setting some specific goals for the next month. When I do this, I like to think about what went well for me in October and what didn't go so well. So looking back, I feel like I had a very productive October and I did get to organize everything that I wanted to. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I sorted out 9,000 of my emails, and that's like a huge thing for me. My whole desktop was cleared. My laptop was pretty clear. I just create like a fresh scene when I'm on my laptop. In terms of my phone, all of my pictures on my phone are onto my hard drive, which I feel very proud about because I don't usually do that. So now to keep on top of it, I go through my pictures every week and I delete all the random screenshots or quotes that I've saved, and I just organize them into folders if I do want to keep them, and otherwise I delete them if I don't need those pictures. So this is a really nice practice that I started to do, which makes me just feel like I'm on top of my game all the time, because if my phone and my laptop are all pretty clear, I feel like, again, my space that I'm working in a lot of the time is clear, and it helps me stay more focused and get things done a lot easier, rather than if everything was cluttered and I would spend twice the time looking for something, whereas when it's organized, I don't need to do that. So I'm just writing that October was very organized and I got everything I wanted to done. I am up to date with all of my blogs, and now I can spend the rest of the year kind of just taking it a bit slower and just really taking everything in and just spending more time learning and preparing. So now I'm just going to come up with some goals that I want to really prioritize this month. I mentioned that I want to start doing some more yoga, so I'm just writing things like that. And one of my favorite ones is Boho Beautiful, and she does really nice kind of intense practices which make me feel like I'm pushing myself and working really hard, but in a good way. I also want to start going out for walks. The weather in November is really beautiful, so I want to spend some time just, you know, being outside and taking in this nice weather before it gets too hot again. I've also spent a lot of October listening to audiobooks, which have been so amazing. So if you don't listen to audiobooks, you should definitely listen to them, because while I was organizing my cupboard or while I was just doing general things around the house, I would listen to an audiobook, and I feel like it's such a good way to absorb information. But I actually want to go back to just reading a book, because I feel like I haven't done that for a while. I think that's the best way for me to kind of really focus on what I'm reading and take notes from it and just dedicate that time. So reading is another goal that I'll hopefully get to work on this month. My next goal is to meditate for a longer period of time, and I know that right now I have the luxury of time, so I really want to dedicate it to these practices and spend my time wisely instead of doing the whole scrolling to Instagram. I want to spend about half an hour every single day on my meditation practice, whether it's 15 minutes in the morning and 15 in the evening, or just a half an hour block. And I feel like I'm pretty capable of doing that, but there's some breath work and there's some other techniques that I want to start to include in that, so I feel like half an hour is a good time. So meditating for half an hour is my other goal. So right now I've got yoga, walking, reading and meditating, and I know they sound very common, like this is what a lot of people would want to do, but I do believe that they are like the pillars of good health and wellness, and just for my journey of self-development and spiritual development as well. I think that all of these things tie in really well with the kind of things that I want to achieve this month. So I reflected on the wins of October and all the things that went well for me, and I've created some goals for November. So now I'm just going to spend some time thinking about what didn't go so well for me in October. So I think it's important to think about what didn't really go well for you, because you can spend some time figuring out why. Like for me, even though I did have a really productive month, I did let myself feel quite overwhelmed at times, but it wasn't the usual overwhelm where you feel like you've got too many things to do that have been put upon you. It was more like I was putting these things upon myself. So making sure the next month is better, I'm gonna not give myself a lot of things to do. Another thing about October is that it's been very busy, and I have been looking after myself, and I do feel like I prioritize self-care in a good way. But I've also not really had a lot of free time to do what I want, and by this I mean things like painting or watching a movie. I almost can't justify it to myself, because I feel like if I have 10 minutes to be painting, I have 10 minutes to be doing work, and I chose work over that, which is fine because maybe that's what I needed to do, and I did need to focus on and have a bit of discipline with making sure I got everything done, and I'm okay with that. But I want November to have a bit more of a balance in terms of the work that I do, and I want to switch off by a certain time, completely making sure that I can have time to do the things that I enjoy and live a bit more slowly. So I'm just writing down everything I said, so I'm going to make sure that there's a balance in November where I come up with a routine to make sure that I can switch off what I'm doing at a certain time. So that's another thing, that I would have to create some new routines in my life to make sure that I have a guideline to follow in terms of having the desired month. I think that's also really important. Now, I have been making routines all my life and I do feel like I follow them, but I also feel like they're constantly changing and I need to accept that as well. Which kind of takes me on to my next point, that I think it's really important to make sure you actually schedule out time for your self-care practice. So for me personally, I noticed that I am very wavy in the sense that like I will feel good one day and then I would feel like I'm not as productive, or I would need a bit of a slow day. And what I've always had in the back of my head is that I need to prepare for these slow days. I need to have something set in place to make sure that I can still continue my work, or everything else will still carry on but I am resting. And an example of that would be, say I am not feeling so great on a Monday, which is when I usually put out a YouTube video. My goal is to make sure I have some YouTube videos planned and that's ready to go up for you guys, just to make sure I'm staying consistent, even though I might not be feeling great on a Monday, which is kind of hard to do because I'm very last minute when it comes to these things as well. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how I get on with that this month. I really hope this video isn't too random. I want to make sure that it still makes sense, and I'm just gonna go over everything I've done so far. So first I made my brain dump list, which is basically everything I wanted to do but split in 3 separate categories. And then I moved on to making sure I planned my monthly content and made sure that I have my videos set in place, any of my meetings with the children are ready, and any meetings with parents I'll put in here. And then moving on to my iPad, I wrote down the reflections of the month and wrote down the things that went well and some goals that I want to set for November. I'm going to try and make routines where I am putting those things in place. So like I said, I am going to be doing a longer practice of yoga and meditation. So I'm going to dedicate at least an hour of free time where I don't touch my phone, everything else is off, work hasn't started yet, and I can just dedicate that time to yoga. And again, the same thing in the evening, making sure that there's a switch off time. So those are kind of the things that I'll be using when it comes to creating my routine. And as for my online content, the YouTube videos and my blogs and everything like that, I have had this stuff planned for a while, so I'm pretty on top of it this month. So yeah, I feel like I have got everything in place. I know it doesn't look like there's a lot of detail in terms of what I've shown, but it's all going on in my head, trust me. So now I'm just going to plan my routine and exactly like a step-by-step guide on how I will achieve all of these things. And I think that's pretty much it. This was a very long video and I really do hope you enjoyed it, and it was nice to kind of have a little bit more of a free-flowing conversation with you all. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you had a really nice planning session with me, and I would really appreciate it if you left a comment down below letting me know what you thought and if you'd like to see more of these videos. Sending you all so much love, and I will see you next time. Bye.